Thank you for tuning into the podcast of Eden Church NJ, where we take care of Jersey because Jesus loves Jersey. Hit the follow button, share this episode with a friend, and I'll see you soon. Let's get into it.
So in 1960, this awkward, abused teenage kid from Long Branch, New Jersey, thought that he found the solution to all of his teenage alienation and sorrow. The guitar. He discovered the guitar, and he begged his mom to go down to Deal's Music in Freehold, New Jersey, to rent him a guitar with money she ain't even have, for real. And because she loved him, she did it. She went down to Deal's, rented him a guitar, and when they got back, he was so hype, and he ran into his house, kind of hiding the guitar because he didn't want any of his neighbors to know he was getting ready to try this thing out. He runs, goes straight to his bedroom, opens the case, feels the weight of the guitar, and senses some of its magic and how it would connect him to people across the globe throughout his life. And he smelled the wood, and he ran his fingers across the strings, and he sat there enamored at the guitar. He put the pick in his teeth, and he took a couple weeks of music lessons, and then he quit. It was too hard, he said. And I don't blame him, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish that I still was playing the trumpet that I learned in the 4th grade. I don't know about you, but I quit too. Music is hard. They make it look easy, but music is difficult. But good thing his story in music didn't end there, because he would come back to music one day, and that awkward kid from down the shore would go on to become the man we now know as the boss, Bruce Springsteen. And if you've been living under a rock, you might not know that in every generation, New Jersey produces at least a couple different music icons across genres, you know what I'm saying? And in his generation, Bruce Springsteen is that dude. You know, we also have the likes of like Lauryn Hill, and even for the younger generation, Coi Leray, exactly from this town. And we've produced musical icons across the globe from New Jersey. And Bruce Springsteen was one of those. And so we see then that he didn't stop there. And not only that, to this day, Bruce Springsteen can't even read music. But he sold over 70 million musical records. And so we see that when he quit that day, it didn't kill his career in music. No, it killed a version of his music that wouldn't have lasted the test of time. It killed his version. He was maybe a version that was just easy, or maybe only always about fun in music. No, it killed a version of his music that would have never led to him impacting as many people as Bruce Springsteen has gone on to impact, and still to this day, a booked and busy global rock star, literally. And here's what I found to be true in life in relationship with God. And even life in general, I should say. Because I know not everybody in here, you know what I'm saying, it's Easter, you know what I mean? I know there's a few people here who you're really just, you might not even believe with everything I'm getting ready to say or what we've been singing about, like, he is risen. It's a really bold thing to believe and to claim. And I know there's got to be a couple people in here, you're just here because you want the family together on Easter, amen? And I respect that, honestly, if I can be real with you. If no one's told you yet, I just want to say thank you. Honestly, I really do respect that you love your family so much that you're willing to subject yourself to moments you might not even fully agree with just for unity. That's actually really dope and commendable. But here's what I found to be true in life and relationship with God, but also just in life in general. That in order for there to be abundance, there often must first be a burial. In order for there to be life in abundance, there often must first be a burial, because very few things worthwhile in life last the test of time without first going through moments where it seems like it might be dead. And so then we must see that, especially in Jesus, but even in life in general, that death cannot be the end. No, death must then only ever be a means to a greater beginning. Oh my God, I just wish I had like 10 seasoned saints in the room, 10 people who really could help me testify with your mouths and with your hands and with your feet that you've seen a thing and it looked like it was dead and gone. It looked like it was buried and bad forever, but God. I just wish I knew a few people who could help Paul out when he explains to us the significance of Resurrection Sunday or Easter Sunday in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 35 and 36, when he puts it this way. But someone will ask, how were the dead raised? You know what I'm saying? Because if you're a skeptic in the room today, this isn't our first rodeo. You know, we're not afraid of your questions. And skeptics killed Jesus. You know what I mean? Skepticism is not new. It's not chic. How are the dead raised? What kind of body will they have when they come? There will be questions. Paul says, you fool. You see, I would never call you that. He called you that. I would never call you that. I would never do that. You fool. What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. In other words, what you sow, what you do will not live in the fullness of the life that God has for it with the God-given potential He's given it unless your version dies. And so I ask you today, what is it in life? I believe if you're here right now, there is something you might need to let go. Because, I mean, throughout this whole country, right, if America's gonna live, oh my God, the version we created on oppression, on immigrant abuse and racism, and if it's gonna live, your version's gotta die. And even in Hackensack, that has seeped into this city, all the local politics. Oh, we have a city council race happening right now in this city. And it's getting petty. I'm not going to lie to you. I already decided who I'm voting for, but I'm just saying, I'm not telling you who to vote for right now, but the only thing I can see for sure is that it's gotten really petty from a lot of different sides, and it's gotten real divisive. Even it's splitting this town, and it's splitting us socially to the point where you can't even really openly talk about it anymore. And I think that has come from this version of social life and politics that we've just inherited from what's going on in this country, and it's toxic. But if we're gonna thrive in this place in North Jersey, your version's gotta die. If your marriage, oh my God, let the Spirit move. If you're in marriage, oh man, can I step on some toes? It's gonna live. I know you made the perfect version of your perfect spouse, and you wrote down the 52 list of things, and you thought you found them too. And on wedding day, you really thought you had in the palm of your hand, and they were perfectly curated and crafted just for you. And then some hair was gained, and some hair was lost. You know what I mean? Some weight was gained, some weight was lost. Some ideas were picked up, some jobs were lost and had. And time goes on, and that person is not the curated, perfect version that you thought you were getting and keeping for 60 years. And I know you've demanded this person to be a specific way for you always. And maybe for a time it worked a little bit, but if you're being honest and we could just really step back and soberly look at the situation, that demanding is causing a lot of tension in the marriage right now. If it's gonna live, your version's gotta die. And I know everybody's not married in the room. Maybe it's him say you're dating, and if your dating life is gonna live, maybe that app, you did it a week ago, and that's not me down in online relationships that start online. If I'm not mistaken, about 40% of relationships today start online. But that's also not the majority. And maybe you might not be part of the 40%, you know what I'm saying? And so maybe you deleting that app last week, you thought it was maybe you losing all hope of ever getting married ever, but maybe it was actually a new beginning of you relying on something other than your ability to make a cute profile and a bio. Because if it's gonna live, your version's gotta die. Or maybe career. Oh, man, I know that we got some A students in the room, I can tell right now. We do. We got some, y'all did really good growing up, you know what I mean? And it just, your parents, maybe they told you, you got 3 options for your degree. You could get one of these 3 things, and you got 3 options for schools. You're going to one of these schools, you get one of these degrees, and that means you're going to get one of these jobs. You hear me? And you was like, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. And you did it, and you're there, and it's not working. Because we know you got a finance degree, but everybody knows you're into music and interior design. You know what I'm saying? And so that career, if it's going to live, your version, the version you were given, it's got to die. Or maybe I step on some teenage toes for a second, too. I know as a youngin', you might really want the freedom of adulthood already. Because we know when you hit 15 is really the age when you do know everything. Like, we do know that. And this is a proven fact. You guys are laughing. And maybe you don't even really remember why anymore, but there's just this bitterness towards your parents. A lot of us have been there, and you don't even really know anymore. But the only thing you do know is that you're just whatever you say, I don't listen. You know what I mean? I just don't even know why anymore, but I can't even stand to hear you talk. And there's this rebellion in you. You've forgotten where it came from. But if you want for the freedom of the maturity if it's gonna live, your version, it's gotta die. And can I help a parent or two in the room as well? Because I'm a parent as well. I empathize, and I know no kid wants to hear this, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. Because I have the microphone and you don't. But there is something to that. If your family forced you to come here today, that in my mind automatically puts them in like the top 10% of people who care and go above and beyond. Why? Because this is evidence not everybody has people in their lives who care and want to try to do right. But you do. There are people who wish they had parents who would force them to do things they think are right when there's so much wrong being taught. If it's gonna live, your version's gotta die. But here's the thing, verse 35, right? We question though, you know what I'm saying? But someone will ask, how are the dead raised? You know what I'm saying, Pastor B, I get it. You don't really know what my parents really be doing behind closed doors. You right? Sure. Okay, yeah, sure, I hear you, but like, you don't know what she really did, though, bro. Like, you wouldn't eject it neither. Like, you would have definitely been doing what I'm. Yeah, I know how. You don't know that career, that job, but I got the stock option and the golden handcuffs. They're really tight, and I can't leave. You know what I mean? It's this good, and we got the insurance, and I get it. There'll be questions, and I think we question like this too, but we question ourselves into fear. And we question ourselves into fear of the unknown, of what might be on the other side of that thing being buried and our version going away. Or we fear having seen the example of the thing not work out real well. You know, we have the idea in our mind, some of us, as you're hearing me speak right now over the last few minutes, you can't get it out of your mind, this thing that's been haunting you for a while, that you've now come to the realization of who you maybe should have been in that second marriage. And maybe you're starting to realize maybe you are part of the problem. Not the whole problem, but like, part of it. It's true. It's you. It's okay. Or haunting you. You just can't get past the person the parent that you should have been when they were 8, but now they're 48 and they have 4 kids and they live in Alabama and you don't really talk to them that much. And maybe part of it is because of a refusal to let the right things end so that the right things can live. And I just want to tell you, don't let that fear of what you can't see or even what you can see stop you from the necessary endings that you need in your life in order for life to really life. Because what you're doing in that moment is you are allowing wrong to be resurrected in your life instead of right. You are allowing the resurrection of wrong, because what we do is we see a burial site and we slip into our self-pity and we just decide to settle and make a home in a grave that God called us to worship our way out of. God has not called you to make a home in that grave. God has called you to look at that grave, kick dirt on it, and say bye-bye. You know, Jesus put it this way in Mark chapter 8. He's reminding his people, his followers, his disciples of like who he really is. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, remember when I fed the 5,000 with like a little boy's Lunchable? You remember that? Yeah, that was dope, right? That was fire, right? Yeah. That was... But he gives them some math he's really trying to make them pay attention to. And the math shows us God lives in the expanse. Mark chapter 8, started in the second half of verse 18. And it says this, and do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets leftovers did you collect? 12, they told him. Okay, and when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many baskets full of pieces did you collect? 7, they said. And he said to them, don't you understand yet? You still don't get it? I live beyond you. When you've reached the end of what you can do, what you can think is possible, there I am. You have just reached the beginning of the power of God. Here's how that math breaks down. When the resources were lower and the need was higher, the gap was bigger, there was more abundance. Here's the math. He had 5 loaves to feed 5,000, and there were 12 baskets left over. But then when he had 7, he had a little more loaf, and then he only needed to feed 4,000, a few less. There were 7 baskets left over. Why were there 5 more baskets when the gap was bigger? Because you see a grave and you think it's a reason to stop and make a home in a grave. God sees a grave and he goes, now there is a situation my glory and my power is going to look really, really good in. Because I'm going to show up in that grave, and when I raise it up, it's going to be very clear, undeniably clear that you have encountered a living God. A God who is risen, that kind of God. It will be undeniable that Jesus is near in the grave. You know the way Paul puts it in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. He says, Jesus said to him, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in what? In weakness. My power is not perfected in your power. My power is perfected in your burial. When the version you created is gone and you see it ain't working no more, my power is perfected in weakness. And then he goes on to say, therefore, I will most gladly boast all the more about my weaknesses. I'm bragging about my weaknesses then, so that Christ's power may reside in me. And here's the point. Paul sets it as a prerequisite for the power of God to show up in your life, is that there would be a burial. The prerequisite for God's power to show up in your life is not how cute you look and not how many Bible verses you memorize and not how good you can appear to others. It's not the image that you can hold or the grudges you can hold. No, it is when you have encountered God and his power in your weakness. It's a prerequisite for the power of God to show up in your life. And then he says, so I take pleasure in weaknesses then. When I see a grave, I don't slip into self-pity. I realize the power of God is near. I take pleasure in weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and in difficulties for the sake of Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Or in other words, for when I am buried, then I am risen. For when I am buried, there he is resurrecting me. But too many of us, we look at our grave, we look at the burial site, and we decide to sit in it. Meanwhile, God has decided that in Jesus, when we simply believe him as the risen one, in Jesus Christ, God comes to you and he turns your graves into gardens, full of life and full of hope forevermore.